So let's talk about the concepts of total quality management. And so the first one is this idea of continuous improvement. As it said, it's a race with no finish line because you're always improving. And if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. You'll see this is listed as Kaizen, which is the Japanese word for continuous improvement, or at least their idea and philosophy with it. And this is one of the big things where I'd mentioned Six Sigma, and we'll talk about that again in this section of the slides. But continuous improvement is always the big thing because, and the idea is it's never going to be perfect. And there is the whole concept of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, or the quote here from, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. You're never going to get it perfect, so you put your best foot forward and you just keep improving as you go. So the next one is what's called benchmarking, and that's where you compare yourself to others. They can be your competitors, or if you are a startup, and if you're a startup software company, you can compare yourself to like the Microsofts, the Googles, the Apples, and you want to look at where you can improve things. You look at the other product, the other service, and go, what are they doing better than us, and how do we get there? Another concept would be inventory reduction, this whole idea of just-in-time inventory. So excess inventory does hide some problems. If you've got unreliable vendors, if you have a lot of scrap, if you have some imbalances, if you're storing all of this, it's going to hide problems. And now if you're operating on a just-in-time thing, you're going to know when you have unreliable vendors because you're like, how am I supposed to do this when I don't have the stuff? And basically, this comes down to a cost thing because you're using actually what you expect. You're buying stuff in smaller lots. Well, yes, you can maybe get a better price on larger lots, but you also have to think about something too, is all of a sudden your product changes, and if you have this huge lot on hand, you have to pay to basically dump that. And inventory space isn't free. It does cost you stuff to hold this inventory, and it's a more wasteful process as opposed to the just-in-time, which is a little bit less wasteful. And you can have the whole idea of having and storing stuff up can hide poor communication, because this is one of those problems, because once again, if you have a lot of the stuff there, you can pull it up, but there is a lot of cost associated with that. Another number 4 would be employee empowerment, and this is big if you ever take one of these Six Sigma workshops. And a lot of it is not just getting the management to go out and telling people to do it, because if the people on the floor, if the people in the company don't want to do it and are resistant of it, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't help. It's amazing. You can read some of these stories from especially like Japan and some of their best ideas with like how they turned around. I was reading an article a couple years ago about their bullet trains, and one of their people that did a lot of the cleaning, because it took a long time to turn the trains around, came to management and went, you guys are doing this wrong, we need to do this. And it completely changed things by an order of magnitude, because truthfully, as we say, 85% of quality problems are due to processes and materials, and the people closest to that are the ones that are going to have the best ideas to it. But it's difficult because you do need to get buy-in, because you need to get everybody on the team to do that. And so some of the techniques they say is you let the workers make decisions on how to improve the process and the product. Instead of being a top-down approach, total quality management's really looking at a bottom-up. And so within that, you can build teams and quality circles. One of my favorites is a great motivator is money. At Toyota, if employees can find glitches in the production and can figure out a solution for it, they get a cash bonus, and that's not bad. Another way that they talk about getting employee buy-in is profit sharing. And it's like, Because at that point, when you have a little piece of the company, and as the company does better, you get a little bit more, you're more likely to want to buy in to make things the best that you can. Total quality management, though, does have some math behind it, because we have to do a lot of statistical processes to actually understand the data and figure out what's going on. And so a couple of the big ways that we can sit there and look at them, and we'll talk about all this stuff, is things like scatter plots. I'm sure that you're familiar with scatter plots, but it's basically you plot 2 points of data. In this case, we got height in inches, weight in pounds, and you can sit there and look at trends. Flowcharts is something else that I'm sure that you've seen before, but it's basically just going down a decision tree. This one is a little bit more the interesting one that I don't think is as common. You can tell me I'm wrong if that's the case, but what are called fish diagrams. And it's called a fish diagram because they're all set up kind of like bones in a fish. The problem that needs to be solved is the head of the fish. And what you do now is you trace back all the problems that feed into that main problem. So there's main causes, which are the big fish bones, and then everything that leads into that main cause. And there might be more that lead into that main cause. So these can be kind of a mess, but they're very insightful for when you're back tracing what problems can be. Because a problem usually isn't just one thing. There's a lot of things feeding into it. It's like the Nile River doesn't start as the Nile River. It's got a lot of little branches that come into it together before it becomes the Nile River. It's like the Mississippi River. It's the Allegheny and the Monongahela River come together. Sorry, not Mississippi. That's the Ohio. The Monongahela and the Allegheny come together in Pittsburgh. I think it forms the Ohio, which flows into Mississippi. My geography is way off. So let's go on to the last one, the fun named one, quality at the source. And this is what's called poka-yoke. And it's Japanese for mistake proofing. And this really comes up in things like manufacturing. It's you physically make things so it's impossible to put together. And so you got this example here with the plug. These plugs have the exact same dimensions on it. You can put them together, and if they have to go where the fatter one's on top and the thinner one's on bottom, in this case, they can both fit in. Doesn't matter which way you spin it. One way's right, one way's wrong. And you're probably sitting there going, yeah, but it only takes a couple seconds to fix it if you do it wrong. But that's the thing. Couple seconds, when you bring it over many, many little instances, adds up to real money. I remember back when I was in college, so we're looking, way back in the 90s, talking about a story out of Ford, and they used to make a vehicle called the Ford Taurus, which for a while was their best car that they did. There were 14 different screws within the car. They changed it, and they standardized it to only 4 screws. Just that change of going from 14 different screws to 4 screws, the company, it saved them like $2 or $3 million a year. And so the thing especially when we're looking at all this stuff with quality, especially in the Six Sigma world, these small little changes add up quite a bit, especially if you're dealing with many, many interactions across the thing. Once again, look at that case we talked about in chapter 1 with Starbucks. They shaved off, they were looking at shaving off, we shaved off 8 seconds here. Once again, you're 8 seconds, but what did that 8 seconds do? You're looking like $1 million per franchise. And so within this world, there are some quality awards. One of the big ones is the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, and this is a governmental award, a U.S. government award. It was started in 1988. It's designed to promote total quality practices. It is considered the ultimate quality award. And there are 5 categories: manufacturing, service, small business, education, healthcare, education/healthcare, and nonprofits. And you can see like manufacturing winners, and you guys know all these: Motorola, TI, Boeing, 3M. And the service, Boeing Aerospace Support, Caterpillar Financial, FedEx, Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So I mean, companies are very proud of winning awards like this. And then in Japan, the big one is called the Deming Prize. It's the Japanese equivalent to the Baldrige Award. And it's named after W. Edwards Deming. And you're probably sitting there going, Well, who is Edward Deming? That we're going to find out in the next series of videos, because Deming is a very important figure in this entire realm of total quality management. So we do have certifications that come up as we're dealing with quality, and it's ISO 9000, ISO 14000. ISO regulations are international regulations. You'll see some companies will say, hey, we're ISO this certified, we're ISO that certified. So 9000 and 14000 are talking about quality. And so 9000 really encourages that quality management procedures, very detailed documentation, work instructions, record keeping. The interesting thing about 9000 is it's not a one snapshot in time thing. It's something that really emphasizes sustained quality. You have to get recertified every 3 years. And they've put out over 1 million of them in 178 countries. And this one is pretty critical for global business. The ISO 9000 is a really big deal. ISO 14000 is a newer one, and it really emphasizes environmental standards. So as we're talking about what are the pros and cons of quality standards? Well, the advantage is it's good advertising, good public relations. You can sit there and go, we're a quality product. And, that's what customers want. And so that's often desired with the customers. And it can actually really help you improve, because if you spend the time to put in for quality, across all industries, you're looking at probably about a 10% reduction in your costs. And that's overall cost. So you may spend a little bit more money in the beginning, but because you're dealing with less returns and bad press and all that, overall it's gonna balance out. This is the disadvantages. Like I said, up front, you're going to pay more money to start with. And so that's actually sometimes the problem with management, is getting the bigwigs to cut the checks for it. It's also very time consuming. It takes a while to get this set up and get it really ingrained into the company. And it really does require a culture change within the company. If the employees don't buy in, if they resist the change, it's not something that's really going to be able to go forward. So it really takes someone to come in, and it's not just the lower level employees. You got to get the upper level employees to buy into it, and the lower level employees to buy in it. If you've got one that isn't, they're going to look at the other ones and go, well, they're not into it, I'm not going to be into it. So that's a typical issue with trying to implement these kind of programs. And so the big certifications you can get are the Six Sigma quality certifications, and they've got them. I have no idea why they did this, but they're set up like karate belts. I've met a lot of people that, well, I've got a black belt, and I look at them going, really? It's like, oh, you mean a Six Sigma black belt? Okay. So they've got lower level ones like yellows and green, yellows and oranges and whatnot, but they don't really mean anything. Most companies care about the two big ones: the green belt, which is you've got 3 years work experience. You can prove that you have some proof of professionalism, and one of those ways would be an ASQ membership. And you have to pass an extensive test, a 4-hour, 100 multiple choice exam. Now, you can get green belts from places other than ASQ, but once again, and you won't have to do some of this stuff, but as I said, ASQ is the gold standard. If you have a green belt from one of these other places, people might look at it, it's like, I don't know. If you flop down that, oh, there's my card, I've got a green belt from ASQ, everybody's like, okay, that's legit quality. We know that's going to be good. Speaking of quality, they're the quality of the quality people. And so we kick it up. The next one would be the black belt level of it, and this is the highest certification that you can end up getting. And so that's 3 years of work experience, another 4-hour, 150 question multiple choice exam, and you have a completed, documented, and certified Six Sigma project. So in the next set of videos, we will talk about those quality people and how this affects everything.